right,
Hey.
Cindy, we are here for our Live Well Happy Hour. I am so excited. We're going to be chatting about a fantastic topic, healthy boundaries. Like, holy smokes, this is a great topic. Now, for anybody who hasn't seen our happy hours before, you might not be familiar with Cindy, or you might not be familiar with me if you're new to the group and that kind of thing. So we'll start and just introduce ourselves a little tiny bit, and then we'll kind of get into the topic of what we're going to cover over the next 5 days. So Cindy, take it away, girlfriend.
Take it away. My name's Cindy McGinnis. I've been in the helping profession for over 30 years. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm an artist. I work as a women's support counselor. Boundaries have always been a thing with me because I used to not have very good boundaries.
We can relate.
And so it's something that I've been working on. I have been on a long journey of self-care, self-discovery, self-growth throughout my entire life, because I always try to figure out what makes me tick and how I can make my life better. So I've always been very interested in the boundaries and why I can say yes to some people and why I can't say no to others. So I started when I first discovered this. It was when I first started my journey on self-care, self-growth, and I thought, okay, how can I learn more about this? So I actually joined a group for boundaries. I've facilitated groups for boundaries at my work. And so I thought, like, what better way to learn all about what it is and how to teach it than to take it myself. So I actually joined the group with all of my clients and went and did it for, I think it was an eight-week course. So it was very enlightening, very freeing for me.
That's a good word. I like that.
Yeah, and it gave me a lot of tools. Some that I can, once again, some you can use with people and like you feel good about it, but there's always those certain people in your life that your boundaries are blurred. So I'm constantly working on it. Boundaries are something that constantly change, because as you find out what it is you like and what you don't like, then you set up new boundaries. So it's an ongoing thing. So I think a lot of people think, like once they get a handle on boundaries, then that, like that's that. But boundaries is something that you have to be working on all the time. And
Absolutely.
an indication of boundaries for me is how I feel at the time. So that's it
100%.
in a nutshell for me.
Awesome. Love it. I love it in a
Take it
nutshell.
away. Yeah.
Man, I can so relate. And it's funny, I think anybody who's probably done that, some of the personal development and worked through some boundaries, probably the story is about the same. And it can be challenging work, like it really can. It can be challenging, but I think that it's probably some of the most important work that we'll ever do. So just to give you guys a little bit.
It's so satisfying too. Like once you establish the boundaries and once you figure out a way to not feel guilty saying no, then it's
empowering. I find it's empowering. Like
that's
you step into who you really are meant to be. Yes. And you feel more powerful in yourself, right? And that's like, man, I just don't know a better feeling. And I've done a lot of personal development myself, and this probably is the piece that brings it all together. You can learn lots of concepts, but until you have the boundaries in place, you never really get to see the impact. So, and I'll introduce myself a little bit here. If you guys don't know me, my name's Jennifer Robinson-Romkey, and I have been, jeepers, I guess I should have done some math, in the health and wellness industry. Wow, probably 25 more years, something like that. On my personal development journey, I think I've always kind of been on it, except in the beginning for, you know, the younger part of my life, maybe up to my 20s, and into my 20s was really more of conceptual, certainly bleeding little pieces into my life, but a lot more of having information, but not necessarily applying it really well in my life yet. And it was in my 30s that I really dove in, early 30s, that I really dove into this personal development journey. Now that's been, I mean, I'm almost 50, so, you know, it's been a little while. And I love it. I love this concept of boundaries because, as I was saying, as I was on this real personal development journey, I started to notice that I was gaining more information, but I wasn't able to see the results from what I was learning because I wasn't taking responsibility for establishing the kind of boundaries that were needed for me to really see the fruits of my labor, if that makes sense. So from everything from career to personally to parenting, friendships, and everywhere in between, it literally is every aspect, like it touches every aspect of our life. And I know, Cindy, we were talking earlier about like some places will be easier than others, and we'll talk about that later.
Some areas are very much, yes.
Well, you were alluding to that with certain people, sometimes family, sometimes career-wise. Like we really can feel that certain ones are a little bit more challenging, and I'm excited to actually have some conversations around this stuff. So I honestly believe that boundaries are one of the most important aspects of our self-care. And it's funny, I was hearing something today and it made me really think about this, that healthy living, and this is what I think is so important. It's important to me. Healthy living is important and more of a balanced thing than a perfect thing. So just forget about perfect. Okay. We're not going for perfection, but really just, you know, our well-being overall, that kind of thing, that it's not just about feeling better. It's about getting better at managing our feelings. And where boundaries come in is you're going to have feelings as you're recognizing where they need to be, as you are establishing them, and as you're following through with those boundaries, you're going to have emotions come up within yourself, as well as it's going to evoke emotions in other people, and being prepared for all of that. So again, that's stuff we're going to talk about as the week goes on, and I'm really excited. I hope you guys get in the conversation too. Share. I had posted earlier a question, and I hope you guys go in and, you know, think about this. Boundaries in your life. Where is it good? Where is it not working out so great? Where could you get better? What do you think's standing in your way? You know, share those things because we're going to talk about that stuff on Friday. So
comments are really good because it promotes dialogue, and then everybody can get in. Yes, exactly.
Well, and
everybody can get in on it.
Well, exactly. And you know, the thing is, yeah, that's great, Cindy. You and I are establishing some boundaries in our life. Woohoo! Like, great for us, right? But what about you, right? I mean, we're doing this because we want to have the conversation with other people to start really helping other women and men and, you know, children, teenagers, whatever. Like, at the end of the day, we can't give what we don't have. And if we don't have boundaries, we can't help our kids, you know, establish and navigate a world with boundaries. And I certainly can say for myself, you know, growing up, we were talking about this before too, never really had boundaries. I said, I suspect somewhere along the way, my parents maybe-ish tried, but they were really their boundaries of what they were willing to allow me to do or not do. And it really made me question if I had them or how to get them. Like it was challenging to step out from that.
Don't you find that we weren't really allowed to have boundaries when we were growing up because it was children can be seen and not heard?
What a great concept.
So, you know, really,
I used to hear that actually. That was wonderful. Thanks for posting that one.
Yeah. So
I always liked that as a kid. Well, I didn't like it. And it's funny, as Jacob was growing up, because, you know, as a mom, when Jacob was growing up and you think you have like a family gathering and everybody's there and you're like, you know, when I was a kid, it was go around, give everybody a hug or a kiss goodnight, you know, before you went. Now, when Jacob was growing, I'm like, not going to happen. If anybody's offended, deal with it. Not my problem. No problem.
Exactly.
Because he ain't doing it. I'm not going to make him do something that he could be uncomfortable with. It doesn't mean that some things in life aren't going to be uncomfortable to grow, but there's places where we're imposing things on other people that are stepping on their boundaries. And especially as a child, they may not have the voice or the words to articulate the boundary, if that makes sense. I remember as a kid, it'd be like, there's certain people you're like, oh, don't know what I'm feeling, but it doesn't feel right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when you
Yeah.
have that sense of, you know, sometimes you're walking at night or something, whatever, and somebody's walking behind you, like you just have a feeling, not that that person's going to do anything bad or what, but you don't know what it is, but it's like it's honoring that inner voice, I guess. So I don't know if I actually said much about my life, but I was a daughter. My parents are both passed away now. But I mean, I did that whole thing. I have two sisters. They're twins. They're 5 years older than me. So there was navigating that. I'm a wife of almost 25 years. We have a soon-to-be 19-year-old son who's doing college from home. Boundaries. There's places where boundaries need to be in my life for sure, let alone all the other aspects of our life. But I can just say that there was some places in my life where I have seen, since establishing boundaries, and trust me, I'm still a work in progress, going to be until I'm in the ground somewhere. But there was places in my life that I clearly see, and particularly after the fact, isn't hindsight 2020, where I dismissed boundaries, where I didn't listen to my gut, or for whatever reason. Some examples I can just say right off the bat, through personal relationships, sometimes particularly with family, or even in business, using simple things like what I call little dismisses. We're talking like dismissive language. Hey, no worries, you know, you sort of pass things up, but it really is something that matters to you, right? It can create stress, it can create a pattern of poor, you know, behavior for a long time in relationships, all the way up to big stuff. For me personally, I just when my mom was diagnosed with cancer and I became a full-time care provider for her, as well as trying to navigate the rest of my life at the same time, not doing the rest of my life very well. Thank heavens I had great support with Trevor and stuff like that. But being a 24/7 care provider was exhausting. And I did not, now hindsight's 2020, I did not take care of me the way I should have to have really been able to give my best self in that situation. I did the best I could. I was overwhelmed and exhausted. And it's through that I lost sight of the self-care, and that's why it needs to be in place before. I'm so grateful that it was in place before, because it carried me through, and I'm grateful that you know, my mom had a 7-month battle with cancer. Had that been 10 years, I don't even know where I would have been, because at the end of it was a little while after, but I hit burnout, and you know, it was a long time digging myself out of that hole. So I recognized the impact of not listening or having those boundaries can be really detrimental to our overall health. I mean, some people have nervous breakdowns. I mean, crazy things can happen. And I've seen that happen with friends having nervous breakdowns, and they're not the same after. I mean, you can't be after big events. But really altering their life in massive ways. So something that I wanted to share just before we sort of, you know, have a little bit more dialogue and log off for today. But I believe that it's the awareness of our self-concept that is so, so important. So really the way that we view ourselves and the meaning we place on thoughts, like our thoughts, words, and actions. So for instance, some people think that saying yes is being kind and saying no is being mean. And that can be very limiting because there's so much more to it than that, right? I mean, that's just, it's sort of a lie, and we've placed meaning on these things, but maybe it's time we reevaluate that. You know, when we set healthy personal boundaries, we communicate to others that we respect ourselves, that we have integrity. And integrity really is when we have a congruence between how we think, what we say, and what we do, that they're all aligned. You know, sometimes when we say one thing and do something else, that's when we're out of integrity with ourselves and we don't feel good. It creates stress. It does a whole bunch of things. Because we know stress can kill you. I mean, stress at the end of the day is like the root of all evil kind of thing. And also we communicate that we value our time. So boundaries are so, so important. And the way I see it is people will never treat you better than you treat yourself. So we literally teach people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. And I think that that's something that we can all continually improve upon. And I think this is such a great opportunity just to have the dialogue, because it can be, I know for myself, when I was first sort of venturing into this, sticking my toe in the water of boundaries, it's kind of scary that it's daunting. And, you know, somewhere between, I don't want to feel uncomfortable. I don't want people to see me a certain way. I don't want them to think I'm being mean, or, you know, like whatever.
I don't want people not to like me.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the biggest fears people have, is what other people think of them. If people knew how little other people think of them, it's crazy. It really is. So
what's that quote? What you think of me is really none of your business.
Yeah. Or none of my business.
None of my business. That's it.
Yeah. Right. It's so true. What you think of me is none of my business. Because at the end of the day, we don't have to take on other people's bag. We don't, you know, somebody says something or does something to you, you don't have to accept it. And I think that as we get stronger in our own self-concept, our own we start to trust ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, you start to see we're all connected in the grand scheme of things, but I don't have to be connected to how you feel. It's not my responsibility to make you happy. It's not my responsibility to fix your world. Right? Like, if I take care of me and you take care of you, then we can have healthy relationships. But when they become codependent and the lines get really blurred, then it's really unhealthy. And I have seen in so many different areas of my life that these healthy boundaries have helped me have less stress, less, like, say, anxiety about, I don't know, the dramas. You know what I mean? Like, what other people are dealing with, or what, like, my life just becomes more simple. I feel more empowered, like we talked about before. I feel like I have more control, and I feel like I have more balance in my life. So I don't know.
And you
wouldn't like more of that.
You do become more aware of your feelings and what they're indicating too.
Yeah.
When when you're working on your boundaries, you do feel a connection with your feelings. Like, it makes you aware.
That's why I said, you know, that self-concept piece is that healthy living is not just about feeling better. So many people think that, well, they just shouldn't. They just shouldn't do that to me, so I'd feel better. Well, that's easy, right? Life's not that easy, right? This is about your personal development journey, not you changing them so that your life can be easier. We're not going to change anybody else. This is totally about taking personal responsibility, that if I want to feel better, that's an inside job. That's for me. If I wait for other people to get their crap together so that I can have a great life, well, I'm going to wait this one out. I mean, you know, as far as I know, if we get one go at this, I'm going to waste a lot of time waiting for other people to get it together. That may or may not ever happen. You agree?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's, I don't know. And I think that creates a lot of frustration, and why people are angry and, you know, whatever. As we're sitting, I remember hearing this in some trainings. I'm like, man, this is so true. When things happen, we have a couple options. We can blame, we can complain, or we can justify, or we can accept responsibility and get better ourselves.
Or take ownership. Yes. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah. So when you think about, you know, whenever something's happening, if you're spending time, just listen to yourself, or listen to how you're feeling. If you feel off, you'll know something's off. Get curious. You know, am I blaming somebody else for how I'm feeling? Well, like, here's an opportunity for me to get better. What's that about? Right? Like, this is an opportunity to sort of, you know, evaluate boundaries or whatever. But if you don't know your own feelings,
then it's a work in progress.
Feel them, right?
Always.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Lifetime.
Yeah.
Lifetime.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Lifetime. And I think that's the thing is, you know, for some people, maybe you do it for a little while and then you stop. You know, whatever, life gets in the way. And this is a great opportunity to start that dialogue again, and lean into that aspect of our life. Because I think most people do want to have, I don't know, feel more empowered and be happier. You know, and
well, I think people want to be in control of their own lives.
Yeah.
I don't particularly want my life to be dependent on somebody else's happiness
100%.
or choices or, you know, none of that. You know, I want to be responsible for my own life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's empowering.
It really is. It really is. So anything else you want to add to that, Cindy? I think we did a pretty good intro. I like this. I love this topic.
Yeah, I think it's people just need to believe that they have rights.
Yeah.
They have rights to change their mind. They have rights to say no. They have rights to ask for help.
Yep.
They have rights. They're
worthy
have over their own life.
They're worthy of this.
Yes.
Right.
And I think a lot of people who have blurred boundaries, or say I've seen people with no boundaries.
Yeah.
They don't know how to take ownership for themselves, or empower themselves, or they don't feel worthy of themselves. So yeah.
And like we said, you're not going to flick a switch probably, and this just changed. And be okay with that, because that's actually the normal way that this happens, because it takes a while to see something differently and then to really believe it as part of who you are, and then to sort of step into that. And it takes some really great support. And I think that's what our Live Well community is all about, is just, providing that space for a safe dialogue and to explore these concepts so that we can honestly just live a great life, because it is no fun any other way.
Yeah, exactly. We're only here once, so let's make it good.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so we're going to make this count. I want to thank you guys for listening, and again, get involved, write some comments, whatever
Keep the comments coming.
Keep them coming. Can't have too many. Nothing right, nothing wrong, no judgment here. Like I'm telling you, at the end of the day, anybody who's done any amount of personal development, we get it. These are challenging conversations. It's hard to put ourselves out there. If you're uncomfortable putting in the comments and being bold enough to put it, even though we're in a private group, private message one of us, and we're happy to help as well. So anyway, with that, we'll sign off for today, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of this happy hour. Take care, you guys.
Bye-bye.